Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. Wednesday evening edition of the show, much later than I expected to be. And here's the thing, too, I want to share with you guys, too. I have a great job. It's a lot of fun. It is. But you spend a lot of time waiting. You do. And like today, I'll give you a good example. Was trying to kind of nail down the interview with Oklahoma head baseball coach Skip Johnson. We got it done. You can go read it over at genespage.com and check it out. What he had to say about his team and the series, and some players that have been rather notable. But it took some time to kind of nail down a time. You get two busy people. I'm an exceptionally busy guy. They're busy. And so sometimes it's difficult to coordinate those things. And so I also had some things to do in advance of leaving for Oklahoma. And, Ruby Sue has been good to me. So I try to be good to her. And it's been a while since I've put new shoes on Ruby. And so I wanted to get my tires checked, needed to get my oil changed. And I needed to get that done today because I've got, this is not a brag, but they don't normally stock my style of tire. And so they can get it the next day. And so I needed to go today. So if they needed to order tires, they could have them there first thing in the morning. And I could have some new shoes on the rig for the drive to Norman. And not that I've had any problems, I just like to do some preventative maintenance. I mean, I drive a lot at night. I don't want to be on the side of the road at parts unknown because you never know when something may happen, right? So I'm trying to avoid a blowout or a flat tire, and so I'm just trying to get ahead of the game. I'm a responsible traveler. I got people that depend on me. I need to be alive for them, even if not for me and all of you. And so I needed to get that done. And so the longer this day kind of, it's like I want to jump on the show. But I used the same recording mechanism to record interviews. And, of course, I could edit it out. But every time I said, you know what? If I start the show, they're going to call. If I start the show, this is going to happen. So got up, posted some bones, wrote an article that about the new 50% off promotion we're going to run for about a week at genespage.com, 50% off the annual subscription. That will be available starting at 11 o'clock tonight, and we'll run it for about a week, right? So I had to write that up, and so I'm just kind of sitting around waiting, thinking, I got all these things going on, and I said, I'm going to do the show. Sat down, got all my notes together, and then I remembered, you know what? I got a couple prescriptions I got to pick up. So now all of a sudden my anxiety is kind of getting through the roof, right? Got to get the tires checked, got to get the oil changed, got to take care of my girl, and I need to get my meds. And I didn't pick them up like, they text you and say, if you don't pick them up by today, I was out of town, so I missed it, so I had to go back. It didn't take long. They do a good job with that. But nevertheless, it's been kind of an anxious day. And so before I got Skip Johnson on the phone, I went ahead and kind of pre-wrote all of my questions and the filler and things like that. Checked in with the rest of the team to make sure we're going to hit our goal for the day when it came to content. And so all that understood, here I am. Yeah, here I am. Programming note, we're going to do the Friday show, which is most of the time the weekend show. We're going to do it Saturday morning from Norman because by that time we will have the result of our Friday basketball game and our baseball game, and we'll preview a little bit of the women's tournament. And so today we're going to do your basketball preview, your baseball preview, kind of look back last night a little bit, and talk a little spring practice. We will have the opportunity to be back at spring practice Thursday morning, and we'll have selected players. It'll be 4 players, 2 from offense, 2 from defense. Probably just going to be names you know. Won't be a lot of newcomers going around. It'll be, guys that you're familiar with. And it gets saturated pretty quickly. So I'm not sure if we're going to have player availability like 3 times a week. Probably like twice a week. We'll get Levy one day, players another. And we do make that stuff free at genespage.com. So you can go read the transcript, read the stories, or watch the videos, whatever you prefer to do. I mean, I'm not judging you for how you intake information. That's completely up to you. But all of that understood, that's where we stand. All the big room stuff is free. We're not going to put that behind a paywall when everybody else has it. There's no point in you paying for it when it's out there for free. We're going to do our best to get it up for you as quickly as possible and do a good job for you. But, a lot of VIP stuff, too. A lot of our recruiting stuff's VIP. So, again, 50% off the annual subscription price beginning tonight at 11 p.m. Central Time, midnight Eastern. You can get half off an annual subscription to Gene's Page. Of course, that takes you all the way through the rest of baseball season, portal season for basketball and football, through football season, through the bowl season, into the opening month of baseball season next year, all the way through March Madness this year, and hopefully into the SEC tournaments next year. Yeah, so the dates work out pretty good for you. It's a great time to subscribe, and encourage you, as always, come be a part of it over our merry band of misfits over at genespage.com, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports. Reminder, too, I will be in Norman. Jacob Bain will be in Raleigh, North Carolina. And so we will have boots on the ground at both of those. We just weren't able to swing it to get somebody out to L.A. for the women. My hope is this is the last year we can say that. That's my hope, anyway. I've got plans, as you guys know. I think I've shared with you guys before. I hope to, within the next, year to year and a half, I'd like to be able to hire a writer, journalist, reporter, content creator, to cover women's sports exclusively. Of course, everybody helps out on football because there's just so much to do. But I'd like to be able to dedicate more coverage, time, and space to women's sports. And so that's one of those long-term things for me. It's not a goal. It's a reality. But the timeline on that is still a little bit iffy. So that's what's going on with me. Also, too, I have been a little bit anxious, too, because I want to dig into these JFK files because I feel like I may find something people are going to miss. But I've looked at a little of that stuff, too, just because I had to, right? I mean, I was like, I got to check this stuff out, And it's so interesting, to see some names that have popped up there. Like I found one FBI memorandum that they wanted to redact a name or sanitize the list, I think is the phrase they used. They wanted to keep Howard Heo Shing Chow's name out of some documentation related to the JFK files because he was an operative for the government. And he died back in 2012 in New Haven, Connecticut. I don't know what information he was providing to the federal government, but they wanted his name left off the list. It was clearly a contact for them. And that's all very interesting to me. You never know what's going to pop up in these things. You never know what the federal government's doing. I don't care who you are, where you're from. You never know what's going to happen with all that. The name Eldridge Cleaver popped up too. No relation to Beaver Cleaver or Ward Cleaver. But if you know anything about Eldridge Cleaver, and if you know some things about the Black Panther Party and the Civil Rights Movement and all the extremists and that kind of the wild time in our country, Eldridge was a part of that. And a very complex guy in many respects. He was exiled from he was part of the Black Panther Party. Before that, he was like a writer, and then ended up being arrested, charged with several rapes and things like that, charged with insurrection. It was just so much stuff. He got exiled and lived in Algeria for a while, I believe is correct. And then after he got into his older age, he got into religion, and professed to be a changed man. Later, he was involved in some crack stuff. I mean, it's like you never know what to believe. But he was a complicated guy, but he's mentioned in those files. I'm not going to spend time on this, but all of this stuff is very interesting to me. It makes me wonder what's in our FBI files, right? I'm sure I have one, considering my checkered past, but I'm sure I'm not listed as an operative somewhere, or a political extremist, Maybe they've got me listed as a street fighting man. I don't know. You never know. Maybe we should file a FOIA request and see what they're willing to send us. Maybe. But anyway, it's an interesting time in our country, and 219 PDFs. I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of documents here, and tens and hundreds of thousands of words that that information was released. And it's so funny, like 5 minutes after it's out, everybody's like, hey, what's in the JFK files? Guys, nobody knows. I mean, people are going to have to pour through this stuff and kind of see what's out there. But no matter what we uncover, I don't know that they'll ever give it all to us. I want to accept people at face value, but I just think there's always going to be parties involved that want to keep some things hidden. And call me a conspiracy theorist, if you will. And no, I do not believe Oswald acted alone. I read some of that documentation where they were trying to suggest that. But I did read one letter, too, that was interesting, that made it seem like we had some advance notice that this Lee Harvey Oswald may be planning to kill Kennedy. Maybe, And you never know if that was written after the fact, right? Is this part of, because I'm a conspiracy theorist, too. Was this something that they just kind of put in the file later as part of the framework of the conspiracy? Maybe. Those are things you consider. So I don't know what all we're going to learn, but I do think it's great. I believe in transparency, especially in state, federal, and local government. I don't think any of that stuff should ever be hidden. The thing that I have learned about life is there are a lot of things that I want to be protected from. You know what I'm saying? Protected from the weather, the elements, protected from harm. But I don't ever want to be protected from the truth. I will decide how I interpret it and how I want to deal with it. But I want the truth in personal relationships, professional relationships, political relationships. I just don't want anybody withholding the truth from me. Just give me the truth, and I will figure out the best way to navigate through that, right? Who's to say that we won't survive the truth? I mean, there's so many people out there these days that are just so incredibly over the top about things that aren't even true. It's nuts. I mean, it truly is. So yeah, we need some truth serum in the general populace of the United States. That's my feeling. And I think just put it all out there. Everything. Iran-Contra, 9/11, MLK, everything. Let's just make everything transparent. We're not delicate little flowers. I think we deserve to know what our federal government's been up to throughout our lifetimes. And I don't just mean in recent years. I mean, this Kennedy stuff has been, part of our lives forever. Because a lot of people believe the CIA basically performed a coup d'etat on John F. Kennedy, with Lyndon Baines Johnson waiting in the wings. And so those things are very interesting to me. But I'd love to be able to kind of dedicate like a week and just kind of sort through all this stuff and just kind of, spreadsheet it out and kind of get it all detailed the way I want it and kind of have an understanding of what's happening. But you never know what's going to be significant. But again, I will never, ever believe that they're giving us everything. I think there is somebody somewhere, and it may not be the executive branch of the federal government that decides that. There may just be somebody involved in this process before all of these documents were gathered or collected that maybe pulled something out or put something in. It's just me. So it's a funny joke that I heard or read recently talking about the JFK conspiracists. And there are a bunch of them, right? And so the joke is, and I don't mean any harm with this joke, okay? I'm not being sacrilegious or anything. I believe in God. I do 100%, okay? But there was a guy that said a guy died and went to heaven, and he was granted, entry into heaven. And so God said, I'll answer one question for you and one question only, completely honestly. And so the guy said, okay, I'd like to know who really killed John F. Kennedy. And God said, Lee Harvey Oswald did, and he acted alone. And the guy walks away and mutters, and he goes, man, this conspiracy goes higher than I ever thought. You get it. Hey, let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. Man, I love Bulldog Burger Company. No conspiracy theory there. They're going to take care of you the way you need to be taken care of. There's so much in life that is so unpredictable. I know when I go put my feet under their table, I know exactly what to expect. I know exactly what I'm going to get. That's going to be great food at a great price with exemplary service, a great atmosphere. Every time I go, it's great. Every time. It's never an off night, right? You go some places and it's like, well, it was better last time. I just never had that experience at Bulldog Burger Company. And I like to keep it fresh. I don't get the same thing every time, but I get what works for me. Find what works for you. Find your own favorites at Bulldog Burger Company. If you're a newbie to Bulldog, let me tell you, get the Bulldog. Okay, just don't overthink it. Don't maybe peruse the menu to kind of get familiar with what you may want to get next time. But if you just want that great introductory gateway burger, get the Bulldog. Okay, just a good straight ahead rock and roll American cheeseburger. It's great. Start there and then branch out a little more on the wild side, okay? Get the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. And get that chocolate shake to go and ride that ride home with a smile. You know it's true. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. So if you're in town or on the way to town, let Bulldog Burger Company take care of you. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, where should we start? Let's start with football, right? We haven't talked football in a while. Everything we've talked about really for the last few months has been about, some coaching additions and some coaching changes. Not a lot, but some. We've talked a lot about portal stuff, signing day stuff. We haven't really had a chance to just kind of talk football for a while, okay? So let's take a few minutes and talk some football. The first thing that I'll tell you, and if you're a Gene's Page subscriber, you've read some of this. The first thing that jumps out to me is the size of the defensive line. You know, how many times last year did people just kind of line up and run right through the A or B gap, and we were just kind of powerless to stop them? And it's almost criminal, right? The fact that we had to roll some guys out there to compete in the Southeastern Conference really before they were ready. And again, all due respect to Kyle McClendon, who I think is going to be a really good player for Mississippi State. He showed some flashes last year. He's not the biggest guy. But there was a couple of games that the majority of the snaps on the interior were played by Kyle McClendon, a freshman who played 1 year of defensive line football as a high schooler in Gulfport. That's it. He was an offensive lineman until his senior year. So his second year of playing D-line, he's having to line up against some of the best interior linemen in all of college football and try to make plays. And then next to him, Corey Clark, a junior college guy that we signed in June of last year. We have discussed this before, but it was absolutely unfair what those guys had to endure. Now, I'm sure they'll tell you, hey, we're better for it today. And that may be the case. But to expect those guys with limited experience, limited time in a college weight room to go out there and be able to expect it to be performed at a high level, that's just unrealistic, man. It just is. Not having to worry with that now. I believe it's 7 or 8 300-pound plus guys on a defensive line now. Much different look with that group. And it's not like you just went out and got a bunch of muscle-gutted guys to just cause a mess there, right? There's some athletes, some big guys that can really move. I was impressed with that. That's probably the most glaring need we had last year. Said it all year during the preseason, all year during spring practice. I'm worried about the D-line. We get into the season, and then you guys saw what we saw in practice, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't. Now, some of those guys got out there and played their hearts out for us. And here's the thing about SEC football and really about life in general for a lot of people. Sometimes you find out you're just not good enough. And sometimes you need a friend to tell you that. But I have no negative things to say about any player that lined up last year or any year for Mississippi State and gave their all for Mississippi State. Sometimes people are just put in situations that they're not ready for or they can be successful in. That's just kind of part of the deal. So the linebacker group, very athletic, looks like a completely different group. Now, that's not a shot at anybody else, but this group looks completely different, right? It does. And so the front seven a front six of your defense, depending on the alignment, should be a lot more physically capable to compete against the running game of the SEC. And that was an absolute abysmal performance at times last year. There were some games we kind of bowed our backs and had some decent games, but by and large, we could not rush the passer. We could not fit a gap. And so we've addressed that. And I feel good about what we have. The raw materials that we have with those two groups from an athleticism standpoint is light years ahead of where it was last year. And again, no disrespect to anybody intended, but we are bigger and appear to be stronger in the front two levels of our defense. Now, we'll see what happens when the pads go on, right? But as far as just passing the eye test, yeah, we look like we look like we are a football team. Secondary, didn't get a chance to watch them much at all yesterday, and I will make it a point to do that tomorrow, and we'll discuss some of that on Saturday. You know, that's something to watch. We didn't get a chance to see any one-on-ones. We saw a lot of stretching and some positional drills, so you can kind of get an idea of what people look like and kind of how they move around a bit. And speaking of move around a little bit, Seth Davis, that was a guy that was not mentioned by Coach Tucker in the little video. And along those lines, too, the football creative group doing a great job this week, kind of pumping out some content, kind of getting you guys excited about football. And I like it. I dig it. I do. And, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but the thing that I go back to with some of the failures of that group last year, they rest on the leadership of that group, okay? There's some rank and file employees that love Mississippi State. There were people here that were just kind of stopping through. And you're only as good as your leader, okay? And I think it's important to understand that. I don't have a lot of personal beef about all that kind of stuff. But as I've said many times on this show, I expect everybody involved at Mississippi State to give us their best effort. And I don't think the leadership of that group gave us the best effort. And as a result, the employees beneath them, under their supervision, were not maybe pushed to give their best effort. And that's not to say that some people were talented and didn't do a good job. I just don't think the leadership of that group was very good. That's my personal opinion. And again, I've said it many times in my lifetime. You know, there really aren't a lot of substandard employees. There are some, but if they're still within your organization, it's your fault, right? Because managers that don't care have employees that don't care. It's true. It's true. But in this situation, I think the bulk of the responsibility goes on the leadership. Now, the leadership of this new group, early returns, pretty good. Yeah. So back on track here, Seth Davis in yellow, non-contact yellow, but he's out there running around participating in drills, and that's encouraging. And again, you know, Seth's the guy that wanted to come back last year. You know, he really pushed himself to come back. It was the right decision to redshirt him to make sure that he's completely healthy. And I don't know that he is, right? But I know this. I know just kind of watching him straight line running, he doesn't seem to have any ill effects. I hadn't seen him jump cut yet, right? I haven't seen him go out there and have to make a guy miss in the open field. Don't know if he's trusting that surgically repaired knee yet or not. I don't know. But I can tell you it was encouraging to see him out there. He is a piece that could be very important for Mississippi State. You know, we don't expect him to be the starting running back. When you start thinking about kind of getting him back in the flow a little bit, with his speed, you get him in space, he's a guy that's going to win the foot race more times than not. And we hope that his top-end speed is still what it was, prior to the injury. But I know many of you have asked, and so I wanted to let you know I have personally laid eyes on Seth Davis. And he lives. Yeah, and he's still with us. And I hope the best for him. That running back room, though, completely different than what it was last year. Completely different. And I thought that, and I had Jeff Lebby kind of confirm that during the post-practice presser. That group last year, this time last year, man, they were swimming with the sharks, man. They were. And that included Jeffrey Pittman. At that point, we thought we had Jeffrey Pittman, who's now at Southern Miss. But the look of the group, the depth of the group is encouraging. And how many times last year did we struggle to run football? Several. Now, there were some other times, right? There were some games that we established the run and did some good things with it. But eventually the depth kind of caught up with us, and we really didn't have that explosive back that was a game breaker. Booth had some big runs at times. It's part of the deal. But this group looks completely different than it did last year. Completely different. That's a big thing. The big concern for me, offensive line. And you hear that, and I can see some of you kind of cringing and wincing. Oh, yeah. Guys, we don't have the size right now, I think, to put a strong two deep on the field. I like the first-team group. I do. I think that group is going to be really good. But in this league, you have to have depth. You have to play a lot of people. You never know when somebody's going to get banged up. You can kind of get away with having kind of a shorter center. And hey, we're going to do that. Ethan Miner wasn't the biggest guy either. But Kobe Keenum, not a big guy. Carson Lee, not a big guy. But you can kind of get away with that at center. But I just don't think right now we have an SEC level too deep. Again, I think the first group's going to be good. I think Timothy Lewis is going to be good. I think Luke Work is going to be good. Jacoby Jackson, of course, Albert Reese, who is pushing a cart around right now. Yeah, got that right leg in a cast and pushing a cart around. Not exactly sure the nature of the injury, but yeah, he'll be good to go when the season gets here. I just hate him missing reps. I mean, you know what you've got with him? He was the top offensive lineman in the state of Mississippi last year, according to the Hull Trophy voters. But it's kind of the silver lining in that is you get to get some other reps for some other guys to figure out who you can trust. But again, I feel great, and maybe great's too strong a word. I feel good about that first-team group. I don't feel good about the second-team group. I don't. Now, you got some transfers in there. They're going to have to go in there and kind of compete, make some things happen. And we'll see how things go. But after seeing that group on the field at field level, I can see why we're prioritizing offensive linemen in the spring portal. And, it's one of the reasons, too, we make a coaching change on the offensive line is because that group at this point is not a strength. And again, I think that first-team group is capable of competing in the SEC and helping us win some ball games. But you can't count on just 5 guys. And I think right now Carson Lee, will take the first reps at center. That's what I expect. But it's just interesting to me that we can go out. David Turner was so much maligned, but we've really transformed that room from a look standpoint. Coleman Hutzler, a guy obviously and rightfully so, got a ton of criticism last year, recruited his tail off, and it's kind of flipped the room. I think Stone did some big things for us last year, obviously. So we'll miss Stone, but outside of that, it's a better group, right? It's a better group, at least first blush, right? So we can do that, and we go out and get a couple of DBs. And I think Jerron Manning's a difference maker for us. And I'm not so sure about the others just yet. I think Dwight Lewis could be interesting, and I'm again looking forward to watching him in practice tomorrow. But I don't know yet how many difference makers are in that group. But I do think what you've got coming back, you're going to be able to put a good secondary together. It'll be interesting, especially at corner, right? Is Dwight Lewis ready for the SEC? Well, he's got 6 months to get ready for it, 5.5 months to get ready for it. So that's an important aspect of this. But the offensive line group, in my first day opinion, needs some fine-tuning. We've got to go out and find some guys with some length, some height, some mass. And, the problem you run into here is they're not going to get the benefit of your spring practice. And then you're going to expect these guys to play in the fall. And so not ideal. You would have preferred to have all these guys kind of learning your terminology and your culture during the spring. And we're going to go out there and chase some guys and get them in and then have to use the summer to get them caught up. Now, I think Phil Lodeholt's probably capable of doing that. But I don't know if you can go make a living getting a bunch of, G5 guys. That's just my personal opinion. And when I mean G5 guys, from a body type standpoint, there's some Power 4 linemen playing in the G5. that have proven themselves capable of playing at this level. You got to go identify those guys. But we can't go out here and get a bunch of 6'3", 270-pound guys. That's not going to help. That's not going to help us at all. It's not. It'll fill out the room, but it's not going to fill out the depth chart. That's just my personal opinion. Now, quarterbacks, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. But, again, first day impressions. It's been a while since we have had a quarterback on campus as athletic as Camario Taylor. And I saw him play multiple times last year in person. He's bigger and stronger now. The 2.5, 3 months that he has been on campus and in our weight room is evident. He is the biggest quarterback on campus. He is the most athletic quarterback on campus. And even though he has put on some mass, it is not hurt. His throwing motion, the ball still whistles when it passes you. It's a tight spiral. It's a very special kid. And, again, we didn't get a chance to watch, any team drills, and we didn't get to see the one-on-ones. And so couldn't really tell about ball placement with Croman Hawk or with Taylor. But just in the drills that I witnessed, I was very impressed with Camario Taylor. Blake Shapen appears to have no ill effects to that shoulder injury. I think he's going to be good to go and kind of serves as a stopgap guy. And somebody asked me, what would you do this year? I'd play Croman Hawk a good bit, and I would also get Camario his 4 games in because I want to put some distance between the two of them if I can. But also, too, you want Croman Hawk to get his feet wet in the Mississippi State offense and in the Southeastern Conference because next year you can still employ like the 1.5 quarterback system where Shapen is gone, Croman Hawk becomes your starter, and then you bring Camario on a little bit, have some packages for him, and put him in a scenario where he begins to kind of get his feet wet in some bigger games and not just kind of mopping up and handing off and things of that nature. But, I want Camario on the field this year, but I hope that we can preserve the red shirt and then kind of, stack the depth chart in a way that's favorable to Mississippi State. But looks really good. And, again, we didn't see a lot of DBs, didn't see a lot of receivers. And Levy seems to be optimistic about the receiver group. And, Chad Bumpus, since he has been here, has done a good job recruiting receivers. And, I think we can argue that last year that wide receiver group was probably the most talented personnel group on the roster. And there's some suggestions out there this group is as good or perhaps a little deeper than last year. But until we see them on the field actually playing football, you can't make any determinations. I'm just kind of giving you my eyewitness evaluation based on, 5 periods of practice when everybody's just out there kind of pushing and shoving a little bit. It's not real football. But at the end of the day, you get a chance to see what people look like size-wise. I do think Phil Lodeholt, in some respects, in the best of respects, is going to be a little bit like John Hevesy. And what I mean by that is you just kind of get a sense from watching Phil in these drills that he is demanding. Not demeaning, but demanding. And there's a fine line there, right? You can be demanding and be a jerk, or you can be demanding and require everybody to reach a certain standard without, being an idiot. And I think Phil is a guy that is going to push these guys to be their very best. I don't think there's any question about that. And so I think in that respect, and people have said that on message boards around the country that love Mississippi State. It's like, we lost our edge as an offensive line when John Hevesy left. And Marcus Johnson, I thought, did a good job for us. But I remember the relief that some of the offensive linemen kind of shared when Hevesy was gone. And a lot of people in the media group thought that was kind of funny and thought it was positive. I didn't think so. I didn't think it was positive. Because John Hevesy, even though he did not have the most talented or the most highly recruited guys when he was at Mississippi State, those guys fought hard for him and fought hard for each other. People forget, Dylan Day was a 2-star and Ben Beckwith was a walk-on. And we ended up going to number one in the country with those guys basically kind of manning the interior there. And there was a stretch there where just about every offensive lineman we had in the starting five, when Quentin Salisbury was our center, and you had Derek Sherrod out there, all those guys are Mississippi guys. Addison Lawrence, those guys were all part of it. And those guys fought hard for John Hevesy. But yes, he was very demanding. And I think it's a mistake when both managers and coaches befriend their employees and or players. And I think some of that has happened in recent years. That's my personal take on it. And of course, it's difficult to really gauge anything that happened on the offensive line during the Arnett era. And again, I think that was a mistake. Yeah, that was kind of the friends thing, right? We're going to bring in our friends, and so we're going to split the offensive line duties between two coaches because they're our friends. And it just never worked out. It just didn't. There weren't a lot of things that worked out well that year, and offensive line play was part of it. But I share that because Mississippi State, in every sport, we have to play with an edge. We're not going to be the most talented. It's true. So we're going to have to be the most relentless. We're going to have to be the team that is willing to fight you until the buzzer or to the horn or whatever, the final out. We are the team that's got to be gritty. We're never going to be pretty, but we got to go out there and just kind of get after people. And they got to know when they come and play Mississippi State in any sport, it is going to be a fight to the finish. And that even if we lose, we're going to still be punching when it's all over and done with. And that's one of the things that I have seen in recent years is at a time we've had a little give up. And so I think having Phil Lodeholt, a guy that has played at the highest level, and I mentioned to him that I was a Steelers guy, and he goes, hey, it's a great organization. He's being nice. I know he's a true Ravens guy. I get it. I respect it. But when you've got a guy like that, when much has been demanded from him, and people forget he was a junior college guy. He was a JUCO product himself. And so when he has to coach these junior college guys, or these guys that maybe need a little seasoning, he's speaking from experience. And so, when you upset him, you're upsetting him, but it's really the direction you get is for the right reasons. It's because he wants you to be your best. And there's so many people out there, and I'm not going to preach about this, but there are a lot of people out there that are more than happy to tell you you're doing a great job when you're not because they like you. I had a warehouse manager years ago, old Cajun guy named Ron, and it was interesting. One of the guys came to me and said, hey, I think Ron is playing favorites and showing some favoritism in the warehouse. So I went to Ron. I said, hey, listen, I don't know what's going on, but they say you're showing favoritism. He said, favoritism? I don't like none of them, and there's probably some truth in that. But the reality of it is, if there are a lot of people that just don't want accountability, there are a lot of people that don't want to be coached. There are a lot of people that just want everybody on Twitter to go out there and say, you're the greatest. And sometimes, praise, especially false praise, is the enemy of innovation and the enemy of progress. And so it's, as I mentioned on the last show, it's not enough to do your best. You got to do what's required. And it's so interesting. There's so many people, and this is not just a Mississippi State problem, but we're going to talk about Mississippi State here for a second, right? There are a lot of people that hold certain people, coaches, players, administrators, to standards that they don't hold themselves to. And I've got a little bit of a problem with that. It's not anything that keeps me up at night. But I just think to myself, what credibility do you have? When I've got somebody that's built a business from the ground up and made hundreds of millions of dollars, and they come in here and say, hey, there's some problems within our organization, and here's how I think we fix them, I'm going to listen to that guy, right? I'm going to listen to that lady. I'm going to listen to whoever that person is that has a pattern of success. And there are a lot of people out there, of course, were born on third, and they act like they hit a triple. There's a bunch of that, a bunch. But there are a lot of people out there that think, Mississippi State should just write a check to solve all of our problems, but they don't write a check to Mississippi State. And so I ask you, John Q. Bulldog, who should we listen to? Those are the real questions. So let's quickly choose our close with Blair. Practice player of the day. I think I'm going to go with Kamario Taylor. Again, I'm extremely excited about this guy. And I think you guys should be as well. We just haven't had anybody like him. And, of course, your player of the day, brought to you by closewithblair.com. Blair Chandler is my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. His phone number is 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. Whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, Blair is the name to know. 24 years of experience. Get his know-how working for you. He knows how to construct loans to get you to the closing table better than anybody. Get that pre-qualification letter. That's one of those hacks in life nobody really tells you about. It prevents you from wasting your time shopping above your means. There's no point going out there getting your heart broken because you've gotten your hopes up to get a home that perhaps you can't afford. And listen, we all have to start somewhere, right? And sometimes you have to establish some foundation and put some roots in the ground before you're able to maybe go get your dream home. Having a home is a dream for just about everybody. And if the dream of home ownership has eluded you before, give Blair Chandler the opportunity to serve you. Again, that's closewithblair.com. We thank him as always for his support of the show and of the player of the day or week or whatever we'd like it to be. And a relatively new segment for you. But yes, the most impressive player to me yesterday was Kamario. I would give a honorable mention to Will Whitson, though. Highly recruited defensive lineman that we got out of Coastal Carolina. He looks the part. Definitely looks the part. Looks like a guy that's ready to go. And I know you guys kind of wanted to hear that aspect of it too. Will looks good. And for that matter, Jamarcus Moy and Jamil Burrows, we didn't have anybody on the roster like them last year. We didn't have that guy that could just go out there and just create a mess in the middle and open things up for linebackers. And so we'll throw a little tip of the cap to those guys too. All right, time for today's top 10 list. Brought to you by Kalido Guitars. That is Calido Guitars.com. This is a company that is Mississippi State owned and operated. Maybe you didn't know that, but it's true. How cool is it that you can get high-quality guitars from a Bulldog and help out a fellow Bulldog, but also help out Mississippi State? Let me tell you how. Kalido Guitars in Lake Jackson, Texas. So electric, acoustic, and classical guitars known for their high-quality instruments, exemplary customer service, and expert advice. Whether you're looking for gig bags or strings or any guitar accessories, they got you covered there too. They have guitars for beginners and professionals. Yeah, it's true. Check out KalidoGuitars.com or call 979-297-4733. Mention to them that you have a promo code, BSR. There's a lot of power in that code when it comes to Kalido Guitars. You get a 10% discount, you get free shipping, and no sales tax unless you're in the state of Texas. And 5% of your purchase will be donated to the Bulldog Initiative / Bulldog Excellence Fund. Nobody out there is making it easier to get high-quality guitars and at the same time help Mississippi State than Kalido Guitars. We're very proud to partner with them. We ask that you patronize them for your next guitar purchase. Again, that's Kalido Guitars. Okay, there has been an upheaval within the fan base. Those that attend the games at Dudy Noble Field, and I guess some people have heard it on TV too. We are overplaying the everybody clap your hands. Right? They're overplaying it. They are. Now, the people involved in this process, they're just doing what they're told to do. And I thought maybe we'd help a little. And we're going to do songs about clapping. Songs about clapping. Not to clap, but songs about clapping. Now, there's a couple in here that are pretty similar, and we'll explain that when we get there. But, it's a bit much. One of our astute posters over at genespage.com, like he had seen people kind of complaining about it, and he counted, we did it 16 times in 7 innings against Jackson State. It's a little bit much. It is. And there's a lot of other songs that we can use, so I thought maybe, just maybe, and these may not be anthemic enough for college athletics, but it's songs about clapping. Clapping. We'll start with number 10. This song is actually played at times at Dudy Noble, and maybe perhaps we should mix this one in a little bit more in addition to the Everybody Clap Your Hands. But it's Fitz and the Tantrums, Hand Clap. I Can Make Your Hand Clap. That song, you've heard it and you're familiar with it, but it's a high energy song, and I think it's might be a little more apropos. Nobody asked me, but it's my show. I'll say what I want to say. All right, number 9, dipping into maybe some 2010s rap here for you. When Ani played baseball at Broadmoor High School for 2 years, his walkout song was No Hands from Waka Flocka Flame. So in homage to that time in my life, we're going to go with Waka Flocka's Clap is number 9. Now, the language in that song is not appropriate. Not appropriate. There's no question about it. So we couldn't play this at Dudy Noble Field, but perhaps you can play it in the comfort of your own vehicle. Put it on your playlist. I think you'll dig it. All right, number 8. Interesting track here. Much different than the rest. It's a band called Kungs. 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 And it's Clap Your Hands. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll have some fun with it. And after all this clapping controversy, maybe it'll scratch you where you itch. All right, number 7 on our list, and we're going to go back a little bit. I told you a couple of these are similar, and they are. One's not technically a cover, and I liked it enough that I wanted to include it. It's in the top 5. But we're going way back to a song called The Clapping Song by Shirley Ellis. It was also covered by Queen drummer Roger Taylor, but his version is nowhere near as good as the original. And I don't know if it's a Shirley Ellis creation or not, but that's the oldest rendition of the song. And it's interesting. The lyrics are a riot. I mean, they really are. There's a lot of stuff to this that is just kind of silly and fun, and music should be silly and fun at times, and this is one of those songs. Number 6, I love this performer. I got to be in the mood for it. It's not anything that I ever dial up, but sometimes it'll come on or whatever, and I think, hey, this is really good. She's very talented and beautiful. It's Sia's Clap Your Hands. And I like it. The music, the instrumentation, the composition is all great. And, of course, the vocal delivery is always on point. All right, number 5. Now, this is an interesting song here. Now, this is a guy that's got a lot of stuff out there on iTunes and YouTube and things of that nature, but a lot of times, too, it's just kind of instructional. But there's a song called Clapping Music by an artist named Steve Reich. And the whole song is just clapping. It's different forms of clapping, and it's a couple different guys just kind of clap along. There's a live version, too, that's actually pretty cool, but the whole song is just people clapping. I don't know if that works at a baseball game, but it fits our theme today, so we're going to use it. But because of its uniqueness, I thought I would include it today. I don't know if Steve Reich would ever make a top 10 list without this song, but it's very interesting. Maybe something your kids could get excited about. Now, number 4, very similar to Shirley Ellis's The Clapping Song, is Iconopop's Clap Snap. It's just a little bit different. They have some of the same lyrics. They kind of borrow that, but it's a different song. It's a modern kind of a dance track. I think you'll dig it. I like the vocal on this one too. It's not as bluesy as Shirley Ellis, but it's interesting. Very interesting. I think you'll have fun with that. Now, number 3, an artist that I wasn't really aware of, but I love the song. And I think some of you will say, Steve, you decide to loop when it comes to the rap game these days, and I'll just have to plead guilty. It's an artist by the name of Chitty Bang. It's a song called Hand Claps and Guitars. Man, this song is a hidden gem, man. If you don't know this thing, I think you'll dig it. There's some language early on in it, so maybe it's not safe around your kids, but it's safe around you, right? But it's a very, very, very fun song. I think the production value on this song alone is worthy of inclusion on our list. And I dig it. I can't wait to get in the car and jam it out. I think it's cool. And maybe you do too. And again, maybe I'm late to the Chitty Bang party, but I think you can make room for me. Number 2, you've heard this song before too, and it's kind of a teeny bopper song, even though she herself is not a teeny bopper. But it's Charlie XCX, the song Boom Clap. I don't know if it works anthemically, but it is another fun song. And I don't know what Charlie has done with the rest of her life, but I think this was an interesting offering, and I think it fits. Now, our number 1 song doesn't have clap in the title, but it is often mislabeled as Make 'Em Clap to This. And it is the Eric B. and Rakim classic, Eric B. is the President. Make 'em clap to this. It's great. The song's been sampled maybe 1,000 times over. And I think you young bucks that love the rap game, that you claim that you love it, and you say, well, hey, I think Drake is the greatest of all time. Well, maybe the greatest of your lifetime. And I don't even know that I would get on board with that, because I would probably have to offer up Jay-Z and Eminem ahead of Drake. But you love what you love. You have the right to be wrong in America. Exercise it as freely as you choose. But to me, when I think about the godfathers of rap, and I was alive through that. The wife and I talked about that last night, about how cool it is that we have been alive through so many iconic phases of music. Right? We were alive, the end of John Lennon, sadly. The end of Led Zeppelin, sadly. We were around for the 80s and all the great MTV pop videos. We were around through the hair metal movement, through grunge. And of course, all this computer technology today. We have seen some incredible advancements in music, and some people would say, rock is dead. And a lot of it's because it's been very watered down, because now you can record an album at your home. You don't even have to press one. You can just master it and upload it to iTunes, just like everybody else. It may not get any airplay, but it's what you can do. And it's very watered down these days. And I saw an interview with Gene Simmons a while back, and he talked about why rock was dead. And he mentioned, hey, if you look up from the 50s up until like 1985, how many iconic performers that we had. And true icons. And people throw around the term GOAT and icon today like it's nothing, like it's Mr. and Mrs., But, you had Elvis Presley, you had Diana Ross and the Supremes, you had Stevie Wonder, of course you had Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones. You got bands that have stood the test of time. Their music is still played because it is iconic. It is part of the American fabric. Now, how many iconic bands have come along maybe since the 90s? Because I as much as I don't like Nirvana, it is unmistakable the impact they had on music. And certainly to this day, people still reference Nirvana. Some of it's a fashion thing, but nevertheless, Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, is still a song that gets people up. It does. Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, it was a great era in music. But really, when you think about the post-grunge world, who has really emerged that'll stand the test of time? Right? And I think that's one of the reasons that Bruno Mars was so incredibly popular, so incredibly fast, is because he was kind of a throwback to the Michael Jackson and the Prince and people like that. He's a true musical genius. But there's not a lot of iconic rock bands in the last generation. It's true. People say, well, I love nu metal. I love Papa Roach and Korn too. And some of those songs may linger on, but I don't know that they're going to have the impact long term that some other people did. You think about the 80s and Michael Jackson and Madonna and, the Police and Sting and people like that. Those songs I mean, goodness gracious, man, those songs are 40 years old and people still listen to them regularly. And it's not because we're just stuck in the 80s. It's just we haven't found a suitable replacement. But Eric B. and Rakim, I go back well before the Yo MTV Raps days. I remember listening to early Run DMC and LL Cool J on American Bandstand. And to me, back then, and the fact that they've been sampled thousands of times, I think the band that you young bucks, and maybe some of you young Phillies that ought to go back and maybe listen to kind of find the foundation on which it all started, it's Eric B. and Rakim. Those are my feelings. And you know what? They didn't get a lot of the MTV play. They didn't play a lot of the corporate games that other people did. But I remember when they had the big all-star rap, when Fab Five Freddy was leading the Yo MTV Raps thing, the first guy he handed a microphone to was Rakim. It wasn't Ice-T. It wasn't LL Cool J. It wasn't Run or DMC. It was Rakim. And I think when you want to go back and see where it really all began, that's where you go to. You don't go back to 2000. Expand your horizons a little bit. And I'm telling you, everybody knows Paid in Full. And, of course, the beat that Eric B. came up with that on is like, everybody used it. You remember PM Dawn's Set Adrift on Memory Bliss? So many people have sampled that bass line. And so you'll be amazed. If you just go back and listen to Eric B. and Rakim for like an afternoon, you'll say, hey, this sounds just like that. No. That all sounds like them. And so anytime that we can kind of share that with you, we want to. And it was such a great time to be alive. And I remember so many times walking around, everybody had their boom box, and you always had to have your D batteries and things like that, and everybody traded cassette tapes. And when rap was really becoming an art form, I don't think anybody did it better than Eric B. and Rakim. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out and let us know. Best way to do that is to hit us up on X. I'm on X and all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. Roy is back from Vegas, has gotten caught up on our list. And you can follow him at X at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. Find our great list on Spotify. I think you will enjoy that. We enjoy turning you on to old favorites and new acts as well. I think that's a fun part of the show. And it's just hard for me to believe we've been doing this now officially 5 years. We started this right after the SEC men's basketball tournament got canceled in 2020. And 5 years later, here we are, still doing a top 10 list. So thanks as always to Roy and to our friends at Kalito Guitars. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. It's the best place to go for Mississippi State merch. There's no question about it. I don't know why you're wasting your time shopping somewhere else. You're taking a risk, kids. You really are. Not to mention, when you deal with Campus Bookmart, you are supporting a Starkville business. We want to keep Starkville wonderful, right? We do. Best way to do that is to shop Starkville, even when you can't get to Starkville. And so if you can't get to Starkville to pick up your Mississippi State merch from Campus Bookmart or to get your complimentary hug, again, maybe it's just me, you can visit them on the World Wide Web, courtesy of Al Gore's internet at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. Whether it's the apparel, the gift ideas, the things you need to outfit your fan cave, and maybe you need to get to work on that now, right? Tax season is upon us. Many of you are getting a refund. Don't blow it on something silly. Maybe outfit the fan cave, find some cool prints, put on the wall. Whatever you need, you can find at Campus Bookmart. Ms. Kathy Brown does an amazing job outfitting that operation with all the items you want. And again, let me push the diploma frames. Graduation's coming up soon for Mississippi State. And think about your future Mississippi State grad and the timeless gift of buying them that diploma frame. And every time they turn to look at that diploma on the wall in the office or the home, they'll remember that you gave it to them. Very thoughtful gift. That's campusbookmart.net. All right, let's take a quick look back at the baseball game. Guys, one of the things about these SWAC teams And, I interviewed Omar Johnson earlier this week, and I have a lot of respect for Jackson State, Southern schools like that have done a lot of good things in baseball. Now, they're not always going to be the most talented team, but we've had some times they've come in here and given us trouble. A lot of times they'll start that soft toss and lefty and get us out on our front foot, and we can't do anything offensively. Jackson State actually threw one of their weekend guys. Were you aware of that? Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. I don't know. But they did. They threw a weekend guy at least as an opener. And Eric Gonzalez just threw the one inning. But he had a previous record of 3-0. So it's, we faced their best. And what do you know? State comes out there in that first inning, and we rocked the party. And it's one of those great things. Again, Noah Sullivan pitches, and Noah was great again. But, guys, we started this game like you would expect Mississippi State to start these games. Even against their weekend guy, Mississippi State baseball came out, took care of business. And, again, and there's this guy on Facebook. It just absolutely irritated me yesterday. We're not bragging about beating Jackson State. All due respect to the Tigers. Okay? Understand that. Nobody is saying a win over Jackson State makes up for any of the losses against Texas. And you feel free to get off the bandwagon whatever you want to, sir. As for me and my house, we're going to support the Dawgs. But the Bulldogs came out and kind of angry, I guess you could say. Sawyer Reeves, who at one time was hitting like 0.84, hitting over 300 now. Yeah. So Reeves opens up, 2-2 count, knocks it back up the middle. Bryce rocks one to left, and then Stallman makes it a souvenir. It's a 3-0 ball game. Guys, it's like 7-8 pitches into this ball game. It's 3-0. Then Sullivan's hit by the pitch. Hines singles through the right side, and then Stevens walks. So the first 6 batters in the Bulldog lineup get on base, and they go out and take a mound visit, and then what do you know? Gatlin Sanders makes it 7 straight. He singles down the right field line, couple runs score. It's 5-0, and then Powell's out, Cup's up, and then we end up batting around, and Cup got picked off, and that's you can't lose focus there. It's 7-0, but he got picked off because he wasn't paying attention, and that just can't happen. And Dylan's been good for us, but that's just inexcusable, and he knows better. But Reeves hits a shot out to left, but anytime that Sawyer Reeves is hitting twice in an inning, it's a good thing for Mississippi State. So 7-0, and then we're just kind of cruising along here, and then State pushes it back out, to 9. They bring in Caleb Gallant, who I thought did a pretty good job. He competed. He walks Bryce Chance, and then it's a double to right for Stallman, and wild pitch moves the guys up, and Chance scores, and then Noah Sullivan singles through the left side. Chases in a run, and then nothing else going for State there in the bottom of the second. But it's a 9-0 ball game, and honestly, on the road, we're thinking, okay, this is going to be a 7-inning deal. Top of third, we break up the no-hitter here, right? With 2 outs, the 9-hole hitter doubles down the third baseline, and honestly, I think it was foul. It's just not worth reviewing. I honestly think that ball hit in foul territory. It's true. That's what I think. It was fair, and fading. I don't think it passed third base in fair territory. That's just my feeling. But it's not worth reviewing up 9-0. That's just kind of rubbing it in. It is. All right, bottom of third. We get some things going here, but really weren't able to cash in. Top of 4, really the same thing for them. And Kevin Monell came in, and Kevin's kind of been an unheralded hero at times for State out of that bullpen. Came in, did a good job. The bottom of 4, State back to work. Sullivan walks, Hines flies out, and then Stevens walks. Now runners at first and second. They make a change here, and then Sanders on the fielder's choice. They can't turn 2 there. And then Joe Powell. Joe has been pressing a little bit. He was 1 for 10 prior to this at bat. He hits a 3-run home run to left field. Now it's a 12th ball game, and the route is officially on. Dylan Cup singles again. Reeves then walks, and O'Brien flies out. We're already starting to substitute liberally in the 4th inning. Top of 5, not a lot going here. We make a lot of substitutions here, but man, what a great inning of pitching here. We strike out the side. Some lengthy counts, but he gets all 3 hitters looking. Yeah, good work. Good work. All right, bottom of 5, State had some traffic on the bases here, but I don't know that we really kind of cashed in. And we get 2 outs. We get the leadoff walk, and then we get a couple of outs, and Stevens singles, but we were able to make something out of it. Chester ends up walking, and then they walk Spalletta to force in a run. But granted, the Bandits are in the game by and large, but you'd like to see us kind of get the hit. We'll take the run any way we can get it, but you'd like to see those guys kind of get in there and make some things happen. But Jackson State avoids a shutout with 3 there in the 6th, and it was not. Noah Stevens came out, walked 1 hitter. They went out there and got him. The trainer came out, and I asked Lamonis in postgame, and he goes, his back was just kind of tight. His arm is fine, and he'll be good to go this weekend. Of course, Ace Reese didn't play. He says he's good to go this weekend too. We'll get our availability report Thursday evening. But, Fortenberry comes in, gets a ground out, and then it's 3 consecutive hits, and now it's a 13-3 ball game. And we're able to get out of it. But then bottom of the 6th, State gets a couple of those runs back. Reeves walks, O'Brien walks, and you make them pay here. Down strikes out looking, but then Davila, his first hit is a Bulldog, drives in a run to make it 14-3. Fry then doubles down the left field line, and it's like I'm banging my head sometimes too, wondering why we can't find a spot for him in the order. It's tough. And then Fry doubles down the left field line, and then O'Brien scores. It's 15-3, and then State tacks on the 16th run on a pass ball as Davila comes home there. And then top of 7, just not much going on here. For the Tigers, they do get a 1-out single, but then we kind of get around it. Even though we had a couple of wild pitches, Duke Stone. And one of those I know was a pass ball, but it is what it is. But nevertheless, State takes care of business. We're not going to sit here and talk about what a great win it is. I do think Jackson State will compete for an NCAA regional bid. They'll have to win the conference tournament. It's a SWAC is a one bid league, as you guys are well aware. But let's kind of hit some of the high points in. Sawyer Reeves, 1 for 2 in the ball game, but also 3 walks. So 4 times on base. Bryce Chance goes 1 for 1 in a game and also has reaches on a walk. Reed Stallman 2 for 3, 3 RBI of course, and a couple runs scored. Noah Sullivan goes 1 for 1 in a game with an RBI, also with a walk. Noah Stevens 1 for 2, Hunter Hines 1 for 3, Garrick Fry 1 for 2. But you start looking at these numbers: 12 walks to Bulldog hitters. When you walk us that much, we're going to get to you eventually. Dylan Cupp was 2 for 3 in the game and also had a couple of RBI. And we're getting a good value out of Dylan Cupp. We really are. Noah Sullivan goes 3 innings, allows 1 hit, no runs, 4 strikeouts, no walks. I don't know if we just shouldn't make him the midweek opener the rest of the way. I mean, it just really saves some wear and tear on the weekend, guys. And again, Kevin McNow, 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, 6 Ks, no walk, and just absolutely outstanding. Faced 7 hitters and struck out 6. We talked about Nolan Stevens, Fortenberry, a tough outing, and then Duke Stone allowed just the 1 hit there and had 3 strikeouts. And but it's interesting. It is. We're going to talk a little bit about Oklahoma before we move on to our final segment of the show. But I wanted to talk a little bit about statistics. A couple things that kind of jump out to me. Like Garrick Fry guy is hitting 448. Right, 448. He's appeared in 16 games. We've played 21. He's only started 5. And listen, I get defensively it's been an issue, but we got to find a way to get his bat in the order. He was a top hitter at North Alabama. There's a reason we went out and signed him, and he struggled a little bit in the fall. But guys, he's hitting about 450 right now. I think you got to find a way to get him in there. Noah Sullivan hits every day, hitting 409. There was the National College Baseball Writers named him as a preseason All-American. He's got 4 home runs now and 21 RBI, which is among the league leaders. And it's interesting, it is. Nolan Stevens, a guy that we talked about, was a guy that, hey, if he could really take off, the offense kind of gets scary. He's hitting 362 with 4 tanks. Aaron Downs cooled off just a little bit, but still leads the team with 7 home runs. And I think AD will get it going again. We're going to need him this weekend. Ace Reese, again, didn't play last night, but is expected to be full go for the weekend, hitting .321. Dylan Cupp. I remember early in the year, people said, man, if we can get 270 out of Dylan Cupp, we're doing great. Guys, he is hitting .317. .317 with an on-base percentage of .556. He's not the only one, but among the regulars, that's the best. Garrett Fry's .515. Noah Sullivan's .552. We got guys getting on base. We need to up the scoring a little bit, but when you got Dylan Cupp in the 9-hole hitting .317 and getting 17 walks, I mean, he's getting walked once a game. It's nuts, and that's not even counting the hit by pitches. He's been hit by a pitch 5 times. It's crazy. It truly is. And so, yeah, I mean, the pieces are there to be good offensively, and we're going to need them. And but real quick, looking over the pitching side of things, you know what you got with Pico and Noah Sullivan. 2 starts, hasn't been credited with a win in either of those games, but hey, he's instrumental in us winning. Has thrown 6 innings, allowed 3 hits, no runs, no walks, 6 Ks. That will get it done. Evan Sierra, I think he's a big part of the weekend plan. That's just my feeling about that. But Kevin Monell, I wanted to kind of get these numbers out for you. He's appeared in 4 games. ERA is 1.23, but 7 1/3 innings, allowed 3 hits, 1 run, but he struck out 10 and walked 2. And he got hurt by that triple, but that ultimately scored. But opponents are hitting $130 against him. It's just interesting. I mean, again, you see the pieces that are there. I won't be surprised if we go out there and have a winning weekend at Oklahoma. I'm not predicting that. I think Friday is going to be tough for us, but I think getting out of Starkville may be good for this club. But let's take a quick look at Oklahoma here. And Friday night's guy, Kyson Witherspoon, is probably the best pitcher we have faced to date. He has made a huge jump this year, and Coach Skip Johnson just kind of credits to his work ethic and how consistent he is with everything. But 5 starts, a 5-0 record, 1.91 ERA. He has worked 28 1/3 innings. He's allowed 17 hits. We talk about, you want to be less than a hit per. Well, he is. 8 runs allowed, 6 of them earned, 47 strikeouts against 6 walks. And a lot of that's he's kind of a ride and slide guy. A lot of upward movement with that football. He gets on top of barrels. It's tough to get on top of him. He's going to work up in his own, and you're going to get a lot of swing and miss. And a lot of it's, hey, you think I've got one right down Broad Street. Next thing you know, right as that thing gets to you, it explodes. He's only allowed 1 home run this year. Opponents are hitting $168. So this Kyson Witherspoon kid, Friday night's game may be over in 2 hours, with him and Pico pitching against one another. So it's going to be a big part of it, for sure. Malachi Witherspoon is going to be their Sunday guy. They are making a change on Saturday. They have been throwing Cameron Johnson. Things hadn't gone real well, though. Cameron Johnson, 6 starts, 2-0 record, ERA of 5.59. Has allowed 16 hits and 13 runs in 19 innings pitched, 21 strikeouts against 17 walks. That's just not winning baseball. And so they're going to throw Cade Crossland on Saturday. 1-1 record, 4.70 ERA. He's only worked 15 innings, allowed 13, so he's right there to hit per. 10 runs, 8 of them earned, 9 walks, and 20 strikeouts. So we're still about 2-1 there. But Cam Johnson has kind of walked the ballpark. So they're making the change there. They're trying to move ahead too. But this is a staff that's pretty good, especially the starters. The bullpen has been a little shaky at times. It truly has been. Dylan Crooks is their closer. Has been filthy, and so 8 appearances for him, 6 saves, 1-0 record. So he's been a part of, 7 of their wins by record, right? Allowed just 9 hits, 5 walks, 11 Ks, but he is a pitch-to-contact guy, but he's a guy that gets a lot of ground balls. But, so tight ball games, they're going to Crooks. But outside of that, the middle relief has been a little bit hit or miss. As a staff, the ERA is just 4.06. And they really haven't played any good pitching yet. You say, but Steve, no, I'm being honest with you. Collective ERA of their opponents, 7.45, with a ton of walks. 162 innings pitched against them, 112 walks, 136 strikeouts. It's nearly 1-to-1. People are walking as many as they're striking out against Oklahoma. So we got to go out there and pitch. We do. Now, this lineup is also rather interesting too. As a team, they're hitting 307. They're an interesting team to say the least. And you say, but Steve, 307, that sounds pretty gaudy. Well, yeah, maybe. State's hitting 318. So they're not hitting the ball as well as we are. And State's got 35 tanks so far. They're not hitting with the same average. They just have 24 tanks. So not as much power and not hitting for as much average. And that's going to matter tomorrow. Like we're going to need to have some quality at bats. On Friday, we're going to have some quality at bats. But the top guys in this order are very interesting. Kyle Branch has been really good, hitting 366. He's got one home run, walks a little bit, but he's a guy that puts the ball in play. Jason Walk is hitting 362. Trey Gamble's hitting 360. Deshaun Harris, 344. Dayton Taki hitting 339. So there is a little length in here. The leading home run hitter is Jackson Willits with 6 tanks. And was a all Big 12 freshman last year. And has taken a big jump this year, hitting 321. But this is a team, by and large, that is reliant on pitching and just enough hitting. They haven't been an offense that is just, knock the ball all over the ballpark. And so let's take a quick look at kind of how they got to this point. It's always important. Again, 18-2, 13-0 at home. So they're going to have a lot of confidence. However, they opened the series with a 3-game sweep of Lehigh. Are you a big fan of Lehigh baseball? You remember they began the year, I guess, was it Southern Miss? They had a 4-game series against Southern Miss. Lehigh, obviously, not necessarily a baseball powerhouse. But, again, maybe you've kept up, maybe you hadn't. But, 10-7 this year. Of course, they opened with Oklahoma, pardon me. It was Lafayette that Southern Miss played. But, again, not a lot of competition, but among their contemporaries, they've done okay, But Oklahoma got after them a little bit, as you guys are well aware, if you've kept up with our updates over Gene's page. And so then the first midweek game of the year came against UT Arlington, and they ended up having to postpone that game. And then they went into Round Rock Classic, and this was a big weekend for Oklahoma baseball. It's like, hey, okay, they're 3-0, but they played Lehigh. All due respect to Lehigh. Nobody's excited about a sweep against Lehigh, right? The headline would be if you lose a game. They go play Minnesota in the Round Rock Classic, and Minnesota's not necessarily a big baseball powerhouse, but they win the game 3-2. They get Oregon State, who was ranked 7th at the time, 8-4, and they knock off Virginia, who was 2 at the time, 5-4. So a pretty loud weekend at Round Rock. Now, Oregon State and Virginia may be a tad overrated that early in the year, but we do expect both of them to really be in the mix for Omaha when it's all said and done. So big weekend, and a confidence-building weekend to go out there and play, some Power 4 opponents. You come home and you play a couple midweeks against Texas Southern. You blast those guys. Well, one of them's 15-4, the other one's 5-4. And then it's, it's California State, Northridge. Those games are not going to be competitive. But the Sunday game proved to be at 3-2. They lose their first game of the year, and they get mercy ruled at Dallas Baptist in a midweek game, 11-0. That's always interesting, right? DBU's going to pitch. But you would think in midweek that, a Power 4 team ought to be able to go ahead midweek pitching anywhere. But they didn't. Sometimes you just get on somebody with a heater. Sam Houston State comes in for 3 games, and those games are surprisingly competitive. And Sam Houston was good when Matt Dawgs was there. I mean, there's a lot of tradition there, but it's kind of it's just one of those teams that you don't want to run into when they're hot during a midweek game. But Oklahoma gets them 6-5, 7-3, and then 9-7. Back half of a doubleheader there. They get Louisiana Tech in a midweek 9-5, and then they go to South Carolina last week 8-5, lose 11-5, and then win 6-5 on Sunday in extras. And then UT Arlington, they play those guys on Tuesday and win the game 7-6. So it's an interesting deal. They have won a lot of ball games, but you wonder how much they've really been challenged, outside of the Round Rock thing. And again, I think early rankings are the most inexact, as everybody's well aware. Just because of the fact that it's just so many people. You're ranking teams based on last year, and it's probably more of an inexact science now than ever before because of the portal. You just don't know what people have, what they brought in, how well everybody's going to mesh together. That's just kind of part of the whole deal. Oregon State, 6th right now, and then Virginia all the way down at 23. But no matter how you slice it, those are named teams. And teams that had a single digit by their name when you played them then. And, of course, Oregon State is still kind of hanging around. But all that understood, as far as non-conference schedules go, it's pretty typical. I mean, right, you have the one big weekend, and then everything else is just kind of rent-a-win until you get into SEC play. And so, some would say, well, they played better competition than us. I don't agree with that, other than the fact that they played, we played Arizona and Oklahoma State, which are teams that are expected to be pretty good this year too. And so you could argue, obviously, Virginia and Oregon State were better, but outside of that, I think everything else is pretty much comparable. Southern Miss, Dallas Baptist, probably on the same level, right? I think that's fair. But we're going to have to go out there and play well. First pitch Friday night is at 6:30. We'll play at 4 Central on Saturday. I kind of like that late start, to be honest with you. Give me a chance to get the show up for you guys. And then Sunday we play at 2. That's going to make for a long drive back. But we'll make it for sure. But, again, we got to go over there and at the very least get one. I think the Friday game is going to be the toughest to get. If State finds a way to get that Friday game, I think you can expect a series win for Mississippi State. I think the best case, probably most likely case for us is, we win on Saturday and then force a rubber game on Sunday, and then you just never know what's going to happen, on Sunday. And Malachi Witherspoon will pitch on Sunday. Numbers not nearly as good as Kyson. So the Friday game is huge. If you can get that Friday game, I think you can feel really optimistic about the weekend. But if you don't, it doesn't mean the weekend is lost, but you have to win on Saturday. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to win on Saturday. Crossland's a guy that's going to come in there and pitch, and, we'll see how things go. But the reality of it is Mississippi State's got to go play Mississippi State baseball no matter what Oklahoma does. Final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle when you're bringing a large group to town. There's no exception to that rule. Right, I've stayed there myself. It was a great time. It's so nice to have everybody under one roof, and the older I get, the more that matters. Love having the kids and the grandkids together and to watch my kids interact with each other like they did when they were little, and then to kind of love on their nieces. That it warms the heart, man. It does. You need to set up those heartwarming moments for yourself. And maybe you don't have the big family yet. Maybe you get the big friend group. Let's everybody get together. We say it all the time. We don't get together enough. Let's get together. Let's get together. And if you want to rent it out, I may come stay a night with you. But I love the place. It's just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You can do your tailgating right there. But even if it's not a ball game week or weekend, you can come up here and just kind of enjoy some of your favorite things about Starkville. And it's out past the Highlands. Very easy to get to. Very, very conveniently located. A lot of peace and quiet out there. You only got a couple neighbors. We don't want you throwing a rave or anything like that, but it just kind of lets you know you're going to be able to go out there and just kind of enjoy your company, right? You're not going to have a lot of people around you making racket, and they don't want you making racket either, but plenty of parking. You've got the full-service kitchen, the wet bar, that great back porch area, the fire pit area. It's absolutely incredible. Now, when you Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, their Facebook page auto-populates, give you a chance to peruse the pictures of all the amenities available to you and your guests, but also, too, Some booking options are going to pop up too. Airbnb, VRBO. Or if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website. Yeah, the Evolve website, and use promo code BSR10. BSR and the number 10, BSR10, get 10% off your stay when you book through the Evolve website. The Golden Triangle's best place to stay, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. All right, we'll talk more in depth about this on after the show, after the game on Saturday's show. But obviously the Mississippi State men going to be in action 11:15, I think it is, Friday morning Central Time. So kind of brunch basketball for us. Going to take on a team that, it's one of those things you think about. Baylor, and we've had some history with them. But the reality of it is they're a team that we feel like we should be able to beat. And I've seen some people picking us and seen some people picking against us. And that's just kind of how things go in the 8-9 game, right? It's a pretty even ball game in that respect. But, I think a game we should win. I think you guys feel the same way. I'm excited about what is to come for Mississippi State basketball. But like all of you, I want to make the Sweet 16. I just don't know if it's going to happen, but it's certainly not going to happen if we don't win game one. We have not won a men's NCAA tournament game since 2008. That is too long a stretch. And Chris Jans, of course, has ushered in a new era of Mississippi State basketball. I believe that Chris and the staff are capable of getting this thing done. But let's dig a little bit inside the numbers here, just so you guys are kind of aware of what we're up against. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. I mean, it's one of these teams that, we're going to figure some things out. We got to go out there and be who we are and play our game. Again, they're 19-14. They finished 500 in their league. Very similar to us. Averaging 76.5 points a game. And if they're not a big three-point shooting team, so maybe perhaps our pressure brings that number down a little bit. I think if we can keep them under 70, it certainly increases our chances of winning. They're giving up about 69 nice points a game. But they're shooting about 45%. And again, from beyond the arc, they're not a team that lets it go a whole lot. But man, they're not just a half-court offense that's just going to pound it down low. Shooting about 35%, averaging about 8 three-pointers a game, giving up about 8 too. We need Josh to be good. We do, certainly. Shooting about 75% from free throw line. They are not a great rebounding team. They give as many as they take. They're +3 when it comes to the rebounding department. They do play a little team basketball, but it's pretty much kind of the same thing. They've 482 assists, 476 against. So, it's pretty much 6 one way, half a dozen the other. They will turn it over a little bit. And what's interesting about that, too, is they're getting about 15.5 points a game on turnovers, and they're giving up like 12.5. And again, the numbers, it's incredible how the statistics eventually reflect the record. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you have these games where you're just dominant. It's like even in the games that things maybe are going your way, you're still not a dominant team. It's just incredible to me. They've had 95 blocks. They've been blocked 129 times. I don't know that we've seen that for a Power 14 we played this year to get beat that substantially in that respect. They have 252 steals, and then they've had 197 against. And again, that's 7.5 one way, 6 the other. I expect a tight ball game. I think many of you do as well. So let's kind of get to know the team here a little bit. Norchad Omiyar, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. I haven't watched Baylor play this year, so please forgive me. But he is originally from Nicaragua and then went to prep school there in Miami. He is a 6'7" forward. And the guy that kind of stirs the drink for them, it's interesting too, like averaging right at 16 points a game and pulling down 11 rebounds. So he's a walking double-double. Doesn't block a lot of shots. Does turn it over a good bit too, though, right? So you wonder if that's the entry-level pass. We'll find out. But they run a lot of offense through him. He is a guy that will even spot up and shoot at times for threes, attempted 64 threes on the year. The guy that's kind of been the better marksman for him in that respect is VJ Edgecombe. converted 49 of 142 threes, shooting about 35%. Jaden Nunn will let it go skyward to 151. But, yeah, it's just interesting looking at this team. Like, they have had two reliable scorers, I guess you could say. Edgecombe, of course, right at 15. And then Robert Wright, the third, right there with 11. And then Jeremy Roach with 10. But what's interesting, like Roach is a guy that's only started 18 games. So kind of a part-time starter. He's played in all but 6 games this year. But has done a good job for them. But you start thinking about, back committee approach. They haven't played a ton of guys, especially when they got into conference play. They got some guys that have not played as a starter, but they've come in. They've got several guys that have played, I guess, double-digit appearances this year just to kind of get a couple minutes in to kind of give somebody a blow. But it looks like it's about 8 guys that play regularly. And let's just kind of flip over here to conference play because they're going to have that same approach, right? But, working through here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 12 guys have played in conference games. Davidson Hubbard, the fewest at 3. And Omar Adegabali, 3. But by and large, it's the same names. But VJ Edgecombe has been the leading scorer in conference play at 16.7. And then in conference play, 71 points a game, allowing 69. So you're talking a biscuit, right? It's that simple. It's so incredibly similar how everything works for them, what they've allowed and what they've done, what they've given, what they've taken. So I'm going to say it now. I expect Mississippi State to win this game, and we'll be back to visit on Saturday and see how we did. I think we got our work cut out for us Friday night against Oklahoma's Kassan Witherspoon, but you know what? We have to kind of have that Hagen-Smith approach, right? Just hang in there, and then maybe get him out of the game when they have to use a middle reliever. He's got to stay even as best we can. We need Pico to go out there and pitch as well as he can to kind of put some zeros up on the board too. And, again, it's not a power offense, but it is a team that can string some hits together if you leave the ball in his zone. It's true. So that's it for today. Come float with us at True Rest Float Spa, Starkville, 662-268-7601. It's an experience that you need to enjoy for yourself. We have so many people around town. They'll say, hey, aren't you the guy that's married to that woman that runs a float spa? Yes, I am. I am. Proud to say it. But call Dana. She can answer all your questions and she can help you book, or you can download the app and book online. It's completely up to you. And visit DutyNobleBook.com. You can get signed copies of The Dude and all my sports titles there. On Thursday, I will be at the Friends of the Library down in Starkville on Main Street from noon to 1. So if you're in town, swing by and we can visit for a little while. You can get signed copies of the book and hear me talk. It's always fun too. So noon tomorrow at Friends of the Library here in Starkville. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies and people can see a difference in the way we live.